Hi everyone, my name is Dustin, and I'm 18 years old. Tell me, have you ever felt so ashamed you wanted to curl up and disappear? I have, and I still can't forget that moment. Do you want to know what caused it? Then subscribe to the channel, and I will tell you everything. I was in my senior year of high school. All I wanted was to become a cool developer and write code for the best companies in the world. You probably already know where to find those. That's right, I wanted to work in Silicon Valley, and I was absolutely determined to follow my dream. To do that, I had to go to a very prestigious university, which meant that I had to pay a lot of money for my studies. I had no illusions about being able to pass all the exams with perfect scores. I couldn't hope my parents would pay for my studies simply because our family was never rich. That's why I decided to earn some money with the help of my best friend Milton. We did just about everything. Sold wireless headphones for iPhones, bet on sports games, tried to open our own street food truck. All of it took a lot of time and effort, but did nothing to bring any real income. I also had a sister. Her name was Hazel, and she was 2 years younger than me. She went to the same school as me, but we didn't spend much time together. She had been an avid video game player since elementary school, and seemed to spend all her spare time on computer. On weekends, she wouldn't leave her room at all. Of course, she streamed herself playing sometimes, like any self-respecting gamer. We were never particularly close, but I knew one thing for sure. Hazel didn't make much money off her streams. That's why I was very surprised when I noticed that she was getting new gadgets almost every week. A cool monitor or best graphics card. I looked at it all and thought, where was she getting all the money? Were our parents giving her more pocket money? Meanwhile, I had to work hard for practically no gain? Long story short, I got really angry, but I decided to ask Hazel directly what she was up to. However, I didn't buy my sister's explanation. She said a couple of people on Twitch had begun to donate her a lot of money. At first, I even believed it, but then I went to her channel and saw something strange. Not only did she stream extremely rare, but the number of her viewers was laughably small as well. I was convinced that my sister had made the story about donations and was hiding the truth from me. I decided to conduct my own investigation. I started with paying attention to how Hazel spent her days. That's when I noticed something weird. A couple of times a week, my sister would disappear somewhere after school. Of course, I had no choice but to follow her. You would never guess what I saw. My sister was secretly meeting up with some guys in a cafe. Unfortunately, I couldn't get close enough to hear what they were talking about, but it all looked very suspicious. I started to seriously suspect that they made the source of her income, but I decided to hold off exposing her lies and watch what would happen next. Guess what happened next? While Milton and I were busy setting up another startup on the internet, my sister kept getting new gadgets. She brought home a second computer, a high-class laptop, the newest model. And our parents naively believed her lies about the non-existent donations. I was furious. You might be wondering why I didn't just go tell my mom and dad straight away. The thing was, I knew that they trusted my sister more than they trusted me. I needed to get some solid evidence before I could expose her lies. So I decided to follow Hazel after school once again and secretly take photos of her next mysterious appointment. On that day, I was sure that my plan would be successful. How wrong I was. Instead of going to the cafe as usual, after school, Hazel went to a classy car dealership. I followed her. You should have seen it. I couldn't even imagine how high that prices were. Putting on my sunglasses and hood, I crouched near the parking lot and saw my sister coming out of the center with yet another guy. And then, a stunning red sports car came around the corner. When the nasty guy handed Hazel the keys and offered her to get into the driver's seat, my jaw dropped. That was simply too much. I felt so surprised I even forgot to take some photos. Angry with myself and Hazel, I went home. I spent the whole way thinking that I would never go to the university of my dreams and would stay a complete failure for my entire life. Why was Hazel always so successful? She was intolerable. As I approached our house, I was in for another surprise. There, right by our lawn, was that red car. I couldn't believe Hazel had the nerve to drive it home and lie to our parents about earning the money for it herself. Furious, I ran into the kitchen and found Mom and Dad there. They were sitting at the table, looking ecstatic. "Dustin, you won't believe what happened! Your sister has surprised us with a car," they shouted. I couldn't stand it any longer. "Do you realize that Hazel is lying to you?" I shouted, infuriated. "She's been meeting with some suspicious people and probably doing something illegal for months now." My parents looked bewildered. Meanwhile, I was beside myself with anger. So much adrenaline was rushing through my body that I didn't even notice someone else entered the room. When I heard a rustle and turned around, I saw Hazel with that guy from the car dealership. Well, I'll be honest, I really wanted to punch him hard at that moment. But then I saw the tears in my sister's eyes and realized there was something I didn't know. "How can you even think that about your own sister?" asked my mother coldly. I could feel how disappointed everyone in the room was with me. While Hazel was trying to pull herself together, my parents told me everything. The more I listened, the more ashamed I felt. It turned out that my sister's companion wasn't some criminal. He was the CEO of a large video game company Hazel had sent the gameplay of her own game a few months ago. The management had got so interested in it that they'd hired my sister as the lead game designer for the new project. All the appointments in the cafe happened to discuss the details, and the gadgets had simply been rented to finish the project with using the best equipment. I stayed silent for perhaps a minute. "But why would you hide it from us?" I asked softly, in a last attempt to justify myself. It got worse. It turned out that Hazel had wanted to keep everything a secret until the last moment she could buy our parents their dream car with her first big salary. Needless to say, I felt absolutely terrible. I wanted the ground to swallow me up. Of course, I apologized 100 times over and tried to hug Hazel, but it was obvious. Our relationship would not be the same after that. Not that it was particularly good to begin with. Anyway, Hazel and I stopped talking to each other after that. My parents saw me as a traitor, or so it seemed to me. But something good came out of it at least. Looking at what my sister had achieved at just 16 years old, I felt very inspired. I suddenly realized that it was only my laziness that wasn't letting me pass the final exams with nice points, and that it would be much smarter of me to start preparing for them instead of spending so much time and money on some stupid startups. And here's how I spent the next few months. I think my body consists of 90% coffee now. All day long, I would study the subjects I found the hardest. And you know what? It paid off, and I only had to wait for the search results of one final exam. It wasn't the most important one, but still necessary for the admission. When I finally clicked on the link to check the results, my blood ran ice cold. My score was so low that I even doubted whether any of my classmates had done worse than me. I lay down in my own room for a couple of weeks, completely depressed. That was it. I could no longer dream of a bright future and job in Silicon Valley because I had no money and no good exam score. Suddenly, one evening, my sister knocked on the door. "Dustin, listen," she began hesitantly. "Honestly, I'm still mad at you, but I can't watch you suffer." I couldn't believe my ears. Could she have forgiven me? To tell you the truth, I had given up all hope of that. But the biggest shock came next. Hazel said that their company was looking for an intern developer. What's most important is that they were considering paying for the intern's university studies in the future. My sister said that she had shown my grades and one of my projects to her boss, and he wanted me to join their team. More than that, it would be much easier for us to work on the project together. "Hazel, I don't know what to say. Thank you. And I'm so sorry for everything I said back then," I managed to say softly. "I'm sorry too. I shouldn't have kept everything a secret and made some nonsense about donations," replied my sister, smiling. After that, I realized how important it is to not just assume things about the people we love. And also sometimes people need to simply talk to each other. Did you like my story? Write in the comments down below what your relationship with siblings is like.